everyone, welcome back to another video. Today we are discussing what it means to be independent, and this is going to be the first in what we hope to be an ongoing series entitled Gaining Independence 101. So Natasha and I thought it'd be really interesting to talk about our experiences becoming independent young women, as we are probably both in similar yet slightly different situations. We wanted to approach this topic by discussing what it means to be independent when you're living with family, really redefining the term and looking at the discrepancies in our experiences living in the UK versus the US, as well as, I guess, challenging cultural ideas of what it necessarily means to be independent in a certain cultural norm or cultural expectation. So this first video is really getting down to the basics and the essentials of what independence means for us. So what is independence anyway? When I actually sat down to reflect on what independence means to me for this video, I actually realised it wasn't as simple, as easy as we might first assume. I think what really emerged though out of my reflections was that independence is taking away small bits of your support scaffolding to allow you as an individual to take up more responsibility, to really get to know yourself better and to grow. I see it kind of like learning how to ride a bike. It's the best way I can describe it, I guess. Where, you know, when you're younger, you have stabilizers, those two extra wheels on your bicycle, and at some point you or your parent decides that you want to take away those stabilizers, and it's like one of those moments where it's exciting but also kind of scary because you're relying on your own ability to stay afloat, to balance and to ride the bike without falling down. So that's kind of like how I would say I see independence in terms of what it actually means or how you can achieve independence. I think my perspective of that has really shifted a lot over the last couple of years. Definitely moving to university and moving to a different country, albeit Scotland, so not that far away, but living by myself and having to make decisions like for myself, simple decisions such as what am I going to cook, to bigger decisions like where am I going to live. That really, to me, was kind of what I initially associated with independence. And it's still something that I think forms a core part of what independence means.
To give you all a little bit of context, I am 26 years old and I'm currently living with my sister and her family and splitting my time between living with them and living with my dad and my brother back home. I think if you had asked me this question 3 or 4 years ago, my answer would have probably been one of the more typical answers, in that independence means being financially independent, having my own, flat or room in a flat, an apartment, kind of being in charge of my own life, my own decisions, myself. And in many ways, I think I do still strive for that. But I think that my definition of independence has shifted slightly.
So I would say one of the main ingredients for independence would be definitely lessening your reliance on your primary carer, whether that was your parent, another adult, or just other figures of authority in your life. It's kind of taking on more responsibility that they previously held for your safety, for your well-being, for your decisions in life. And I think what I've come to understand now, I used to have a very narrow sense of independence, like independence is I move out, I do this, I control my own finances, which yes, those are components, but I think the core of it is taking on, as I said, your own responsibilities, but also having the opportunity to form your own identity. And I feel like most of our beginning years, like up until probably the age of 16, for me at least, my identity was formed in relation to my parent, in relation to my friends, in relation to many different things. But I often felt that I wasn't so much as in control of that as I am now, and that probably comes with time and also with experience and consciousness of wanting to form my identity in a certain way.
I won't go into a lot of detail here because there is a whole other video about it that came out about a month ago on grief about my mom's passing. But I think that whole process and that event in our lives really showed me that you really are not an island unto yourself, or excuse me, I'm not really an island unto myself, and that you're really only as strong, as free, as independent as the people who surround you or the people that you choose to surround yourself with. So I think my definition of independence is really more about the relationships that I nurture and that I hold, and the energy that I invest into those relationships. Even though I'm not living a life that's classically seen as independent, you know, I am still living with family. Independence for me comes in determining my place within my family, within my network, and trying to support those so that they can support me. I think also in a more practical aspect, independence within this realm of living at home and being in very many ways dependent on family comes in the small things. Gradually starting to pay my own bills, gradually starting to take ownership of, you know, when and where I can be present for the family, and gradually starting to take ownership and nurture the areas that I want my life to go. So, for example, Winter's Bloom being one of them, investing in business ventures with my sister, or my own personal career goals.
Accompanying the formation of identity, I think another aspect of independence is really forming your own values of life and your own belief system, really, of how you interact with others, what your morals are, what your standards are, and I think all of that is really an important part as well of gaining independence and becoming your own being. I also think it's the opportunity to make your own mistakes and not to be sheltered by decisions that other adults make for you. It's your chance to, as well as take responsibility, to learn from your mistakes and to grow from them. Do you feel that your definition differs from other people your age? Why do you think that is? I think what I define as independence definitely resonates with probably other people in my generation, because I think as much as it being a very personal experience, I also think there is like a generational element and aspect in terms of just where we are as a society and culturally what is seen as independence or gaining independence. But I do think in many ways as well, my definition of independence and the way that I've had to redefine it for myself probably isn't in line with the vast majority of people my age. I mean, just the fact that I'm still living at home, I'm 24. I moved back in with my mum after university instead of looking to rent a place by myself, which is something which I know not a lot of my friends who have graduated did. So I think in that aspect it probably is different, because I've had to readjust what I define as independence according to my situation and what that allows for and how that allows for me to express my independence.
So I do think that my definition of independence differs from many people my age. And I don't mean to keep going back to this, because I know it can be a challenging topic for people to talk about. But it just was such a big event in our lives and a big process in our lives. But I think a lot of my ideas of what it means to be a young person and what it means to be independent and to kind of think for yourself, live for yourself, changed with my mom's diagnosis and her eventual death. And I've noticed in many interactions with people my age that my priorities tend to be a little bit different. And so I do believe that in general there is a mentality in the United States that to be independent means that you are fully living on your own and that you're paying all of your own bills and like really just self-sufficient. And I don't disagree with that. There are definitely aspects of that I want eventually for myself. But what I find that my definition of independence gives me is that it gives me the freedom to look at my different options. So a little bit more context, where I'm from in the Bay Area of California, although COVID is kind of changing that a little bit, but it has been one of the more expensive places to live. And it wasn't always like that. But more recently with the tech boom and everything, it's become extremely expensive to live there. And so my choice after graduating from college to move back home and live with home was partly to support my mom, but also partly to save money, because I knew I didn't have a job lined up and I was actively searching for jobs. I think my definition of independence, like really relying on family when you can, and I understand that not everyone has that possibility, but if and when you can rely on family to help support you, it gives me the freedom within that definition of independence to really explore many different options and put time and energy into those options that will hopefully eventually give me a greater degree of independence later on down the road, instead of kind of like playing into the rat race.
I also think as well that in popular culture, there's kind of this almost glamorized, semi-ratchet portrayal of independence as being, you know, that coming of age where you get to make reckless decisions, or where you get to really like take charge of your body, take charge of your choices, which, as I said in my first bit of this video, I do believe that it is learning from your own mistakes, but I do think there is that danger as well of almost glamorizing those mistakes and being really careless with the seeds that you're planting now that you're definitely going to reap in the future. I always say this, and I live by this, that what you plant today is what you reap in the future. And so if you're planting ratchet behavior now, that's going to catch up with you some point down the line. And I think the kind of portrayal of independence in like media and different films and different series that I was exposed to growing up can actually have a really damaging effect of what we think and perceive independence to mean, and as a result how we act to try and gain that independence.
I hope that this discussion, both what Sophia and I have offered in this video, serves to broaden the general discussion around what it means to be independent, because I know that a lot of people my age, younger, a little bit older, you know, you don't want to be like that 30-year-old living in your parents' basement, and you know, who knows, maybe I will be, we'll see. But I think people have to be creative now because the cost of living is going up so much, depending on where you are, but I think in general. So people have to be creative about how they seek eventual independence. And if that means, for me right now, not necessarily having my own space, not necessarily living my own life to the degree that I would like it, that's something that I will get in the future if I'm patient and if I put in the time now. Equally, by supporting my family now, like for example, my sister has 3 little girls and I've been helping to homeschool them, helping out around her farm and stuff like that, I'm reinvesting in my family. And not that I'm doing this because I'm expecting anything in return, but family, for me at least, and this is something that my mom taught us and continues to teach us, family is really one of the most important things. To end, I do just want to transition. I found, pardon me, I'm just looking down at my notes. I found a quote that doesn't directly relate to independence, but I'm gonna read it. It's a Rumi quote, and then I'm gonna kind of explain my thought process a little bit. You were born with potential. You were born with goodness and trust. You were born with ideals and dreams. You were born with greatness. You were born with wings. You are not meant for crawling, so don't. You have wings. Learn to use them and fly. So I really enjoy a lot of Rumi's quotes, but I really enjoy this quote. I think it ties into at least my perspective on independence. I feel that a lot of times so much creative potential is not given room and space to breathe because we get so caught up in trying to meet the next deadline, pay the next bill. And so if we broaden our understanding of independence to not put pressure on people to move out before they're ready, to not ask for help when they need it, we're preventing people from actually understanding what their role is in their family, in their network, in their sphere of influence in society, and just teaching people to become another cog in the system, which, as coronavirus has shown us, is a very flawed system. So I will leave that there. I could talk about this forever. Thank you all very much for joining us. If you want to follow us or submit with us or get involved in any way, all of our information are down below in the show notes. Please do not hesitate to get in touch. And yeah, I'll leave you all with there. We hope you have a very good day, and bye.